our top stories today. 15 years after a truck bomb killed Lebanon's former Sunni leader Rafik al-Hariri in Beirut, triggering regional upheaval, a UN-backed court trying 4 suspects from Shiite Hezbollah delivers a verdict on Friday that could shake the country again. Also on the program, efforts to protect the giant panda have failed to safeguard large mammals sharing its habitats, according to research showing dramatic declines of leopards and other predators. And Los Angeles Lakers secure Western Conference top seed playoff spot for first time in decade. Many thanks for joining us on Global News and Captain Television with me, Rachel Alegbo Ubani. We'll begin in Lebanon, where 15 years after a truck bomb killed its former Sunni leader Rafik al-Hariri in Beirut, triggering regional upheaval, a UN-backed court trying 4 suspects from Shiite Hezbollah delivers a verdict on Friday that could shake the country again. The defendants, members of the powerful Iran-backed group, have been tried in absentia on charges of planning and arranging the 2005 bombing, which killed the former prime minister who spearheaded Lebanon's reconstruction after its long civil war. Hariri's assassination prompted mass protests in Beirut and a wave of international pressure, which forced Syria to end its 29-year military presence in Lebanon after the UN investigator linked it with the bombing. Hezbollah, which is both a political party in Lebanon's government and a heavily armed guerrilla group, denies any role in Hariri's killing and dismisses the Netherlands-based tribunal as politicized. Any guilty verdicts could deepen rifts unresolved since the 1975-1990 civil war in a country already reeling from the worst economic crisis in decades and a deepening COVID-19 outbreak. Hariri supporters, including his son Saad, say they are not seeking revenge or confrontation, but that the court verdict must be respected. Authorities in the Indian city of Mumbai issued a red alert on Tuesday and warned people not to venture out after heavy overnight rain in the financial hub brought flooding and travel chaos. Some suburbs have seen more than 300 millimeters of rain in the 24 hours to Tuesday morning, and more heavy rain is expected over the next 2 days, said India Meteorological Department. The city struggles with the monsoon rains every year as widespread construction and rubbish, clogged drains and waterways make it increasingly vulnerable to flooding. In a related development, days of heavy rain caused floods in South Korea that have forced more than 1,000 people from their homes, killing at least 13 with another 13 missing, authorities said on Tuesday. Deaths were reported from landslides and vehicles swept away by waters that disaster officials said inundated more than 5,751 hectares of farmland and flooded parts of key highways and bridges in the capital, Seoul. President Moon Jae-in was set to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday after he had urged national and regional authorities to make all-out efforts to prevent further loss of life the previous day. Spain's King Philip VI has said he has respect and appreciation for the decision of his father, the emeritus King Juan Carlos I, to move abroad amid a brewing financial scandal. Spanish media reports on Tuesday that he has already left the country. The current monarch's reaction came in a news release from the royal household. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez also said he had respect for the move, according to a statement from his office. However, not everyone has been so understanding over the latest bombshell in a long-running royal saga in Spain. News of Juan Carlos' decision follows claims that he had received money from Saudi Arabia's former king. On the streets of Madrid, there was a mixed reaction to news of the former king's decision to leave. Juan Carlos is credited with helping Spain peacefully restore democracy after the death of dictator Francisco Franco in 1975, but marred by scandals in the later years of his reign. In 2014, he abdicated, losing the immunity from prosecution Spain's constitution grants to the head of state. La Vanguardia and ABC newspapers reported on Tuesday that Juan Carlos has gone to the Dominican Republic after leaving his home country without citing sources. China said on Tuesday it will retaliate if Washington continues what it described as hostile actions against Chinese journalists. China said on Tuesday it will retaliate if Washington continues what it described as hostile actions against Chinese journalists based in the United States. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said the ministry understands that no Chinese journalists in the United States have had their application for a visa renewal approved since Washington in May moved to limit their visas to 90 days with an option for an extension. Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi on Tuesday formally declared her intention to seek a second term in an election in November that is seen as a test of the Southeast Asian nation's tentative democratic reforms. After decades of military rule, Suu Kyi, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for campaigning for democracy, took the reins in 2016 after an electoral landslide, but has been forced to share power with the generals. Her international reputation slumped over Myanmar's treatment of Rohingya Muslims, but she remains popular at home, where her image is undented by accusations of complicity in atrocities against the minority. In January, Suu Kyi admitted war crimes may have been committed against Rohingya, but denied genocide, saying refugees had exaggerated the extent of abuses against them. The mother tongue is celebrated globally every year to recognize the importance of language as a tool for development. This year's celebration, which is themed Languages Without Borders, is aimed at promoting peaceful dialogue and social inclusion. Captain's Lucy Ahemefule reports.
The International Mother Language Day take part in the event to promote cultural and linguistic diversity all around the world. They appreciate and encourage people to be knowledgeable about their mother language. Mother tongue education refers to any form of schooling that makes use of the language or languages the children are most familiar with.
A vital role in your accent. Well, if the degree or the influence that you carry from your mother tongue is more, then people will have difficulty in understanding your language. And if the influence is very less, then you don't have to worry about MTI. Now that we know what
this is usually the language the children speak at home with their family. The mother tongue does not have to be the language spoken by the mother. Children can and often speak more than one or even two languages at home. For example, they speak more than one language with their mother, another with their father, and a third with their grandparents.
Neutralize our accent. So before we go to neutralize our accent, many people ask us, why should we neutralize our accent? Well, like I've mentioned before, if you have a strong MTI, yes, of course, then it is very important that you need to neutralize your accent. Let me give you an example here. Let's take the word design. The correct pronunciation for this word is design. However, there are some people who mispronounce it. Well, if you go to places like North India, where people's native language is Hindi, some people tend to pronounce it as design. Well, if you say design to a native speaker of English, he might have difficulty in understanding the word. Another example is the word oil. Well, the correct pronunciation for the word oil is oil. If you go to Tamil Nadu, or if you might come across some people pronouncing it as oil, which is wrong. They tend to use oil, and if you say oil to a native speaker, he might not understand the word. Another example for you, the word oxygen. Well, if you go to Kerala, you might come across some people saying oxygen, which is wrong. It's oxygen. So the correct pronunciation is oxygen. So if you say oxygen to a native speaker, he would not understand what you're talking. So it is very important that you neutralize your accent. And one major reason why you need to neutralize your accent is for you to make yourself understandable. If the person that you're talking to is able to understand your language perfectly well, then your accent is good. And if the person has difficulty in understanding your language, then it's high time that you polish your accent. So,
when children develop their mother tongue, they are simultaneously fostering a whole host of other essential skills such as critical thinking and literacy skills. It is this skill set they take with them into formal education And research tells us that any skill and concept gained in the learner's home language don't need to be retaught when they transfer to a second language.
And now to today's other developments. Hurricane Isaias has blasted ashore in North Carolina, crossing the coast 40 miles southwest of Wilmington. It made landfall at 3:10 GMT on Tuesday with maximum sustained winds of 85 miles per hour, the National Hurricane Center said. Isaias was downgraded to a tropical storm after hitting islands in the Caribbean, but was recategorized as a Category 1 hurricane on Monday. It caused the deaths of 2 people in the Caribbean. Isaias is the 9th named storm of the year and is headed for popular tourist destinations in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina. Tornado warnings are also in effect until Tuesday. Now, curfew has been imposed in Indian-administered Kashmir in anticipation of protests ahead of 5 August, the day the government stripped the region of its special status. Officials say the curfew is meant to prevent violence by groups planning to observe 5 August as Black Day. They said mass gatherings were also not allowed because of COVID-19. The state was split into 2 federally administered regions last year, and its semi-autonomous status was revoked. Reports say there is tension in the region ahead of the anniversary and more troops have been deployed. The decision to revoke Article 370, the part of the Constitution that guaranteed Kashmir special status, was met with anger and betrayal in the region, although it was widely welcomed in the rest of the country. Thousands were detained amid a curfew and a communications blackout was ordered. The United States added 46,321 new coronavirus cases in 24 hours on Monday, according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University. The world's largest economy also added 532 deaths. The Baltimore-based institution's tracker showed at 8:30 p.m. Tuesday. By Tuesday morning, European time, the figures had risen further, the number of confirmed cases in the U.S. increasing by over 2,000 to a total of 4.7 million, with 155,402 deaths, making it by far the worst-hit country in the world. Monday was the second day to notch a slightly lower caseload after a string of 5 days last week had all recorded more than 60,000 new daily infections. President Donald Trump said during a coronavirus press briefing on Monday that the virus was receding, deeming the situation very encouraging. Authorities in the virus-stricken city of Melbourne have warned of a dangerous rise in people resisting lockdown measures, sometimes violently. Police said this trend included so-called sovereign citizens being combative with officers in recent days. Authorities have increased fines for repeated rule breaches as Melbourne endures a deadly virus second wave. Over half of Australia's 18,300 cases have been recorded in the past month in Victoria, of which Melbourne is the capital. There have been 226 deaths nationally. Staying with COVID-19, Vietnam reported 10 new infections and 2 deaths on Tuesday, lifting its total cases to 652, with 8 dead, as the capital Hanoi said it was running short of the rapid testing kits being used to keep a new outbreak at bay. The new outbreak has infected more than 200 people since July 25, the majority in the central city of Da Nang, but it has spread to at least 8 other cities and provinces, including Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, where entertainment venues are closed and gatherings restricted to prevent infections. The gap is due to a shortage of rapid testing kits used to screen thousands of residents at a time, according to state media. The health ministry said it would assign Hanoi medical institutions and hospitals to boost testing capacity. Stay with us in Captain Global, still to come. Boeing 737 MAX moves closer to flying again. That's in a moment. Don't go away.
This is Captain News.
An unofficial result in Israel's second election in 5 months.
Abraham has made it 2-0.
Federer won all 5 of his U.S. Open.
Emotions are high and people are trooping in.
And on the entertainment scene,
History must not continue to repeat itself.
put in place some infrastructure, because that is the essence of governance.
For the inconclusiveness, it's a push.
Greg Odua Abrahams reporting for Captain Television.
Welcome back to the program. A wide-ranging list of changes to Boeing's ill-fated 737 MAX planes has been put forward by U.S. regulators. The Federal Aviation Administration document details actions it wants to be made before the planes can fly again commercially. The 737 MAX has been grounded since March 2019 following 2 fatal crashes which killed 346 people. Boeing hopes to get the 737 MAX back in the air early next year after the changes are made. Proposed changes including updating flight control software, revising crew procedures, and rerouting internal wiring. Now, Donald Trump says the government should get a cut from the sale of TikTok's U.S. unit if an American firm buys it. The U.S. president said he made a demand for a substantial portion of the purchase price in a phone call at the weekend with Microsoft's boss. He also warned he will ban the app, which is owned by China's ByteDance, on 15 September if there is no deal. ByteDance is under pressure to sell its U.S. business after Mr. Trump threatened a crackdown on Chinese tech companies. The Trump administration has accused TikTok and others of providing data to the Chinese government, which Beijing and TikTok deny. Nippon Steel Corp said on Tuesday it will appeal a South Korean court ruling that allows for a seizure of its assets as tensions between Tokyo and Seoul over the case threaten to flare up again. The Asian neighbors are at loggerheads over a 2018 decision by South Korea's Supreme Court that ordered Nippon Steel to pay compensation for forced labor during World War II. Japan argues the ruling violates international law because the issue was settled under a 1965 treaty. Japan's Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso said on Tuesday that Tokyo would have to respond if the assets were seized, but did not elaborate on what measures might be taken. Britain's Neptune Energy and its partners have discovered oil at a jointly owned drilling license in the Norwegian part of the North Sea and will now consider options for how to develop the find, the company said on Tuesday. The Dogger well is estimated to contain between 40 million and 120 million barrels of oil equivalent, making it the largest find of Norway so far this year. And European shares edged lower on Tuesday as disappointing earnings report from Diageo and Bayer took the shine of a jump in growth-linked cyclical stocks, while investors awaited signs of progress on more U.S. fiscal stimulus. The world's largest spirits maker, Diageo plc, slid 5.9% as it reported a bigger-than-expected decline in underlying net sales as demand for its whiskies, vodka and gin fell in all markets except North America. The Pan-European Stock 600 was down 0.2% by 7:27 GMT, although Eurozone blue chip stocks gained 0.5%. German drugs and pesticides group Bayer fell 3% as it reported a 9.5 billion euro net loss for the second quarter, following a $10.9 billion settlement of U.S. lawsuits claiming that its weed killer Roundup caused cancer. Asian shares advanced on Tuesday thanks to strong U.S. manufacturing data and upbeat tech stocks, though broader worries about the coronavirus and global economy saw some markets trim early gains. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose 0.41%, but shares in China edged 0.04% lower on simmering Sino-U.S. tensions. Australian stocks gained 1.88% for the biggest intraday gain since July 21. Tokyo shares also jumped by more than 1%. Euro Stoxx 50 futures were up 0.49%. German DAX futures rose 0.53%, while FTSE futures were up 0.13%. Now, oil prices eased on Tuesday amid concerns that a fresh wave of COVID-19 infections around the world will see a pickup in fuel demand stalling amid tighter lockdowns, just as major producers ramp up output. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures eased 4 cents or 0.1% to $40.97 a barrel at 6:55 GMT, while Brent's crude futures fell 11 cents or 0.3% to $44.04 a barrel. The slide comes after WTI rose 1.8% and Brent climbed 1.5% on Monday on better than expected data on manufacturing activity in Asia, Europe and the United States, showing factories were emerging from the worst of the early coronavirus pandemic impacts. At the same time, producers in the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies are stepping up output this month, adding around 1.5 million barrels a day of supply. U.S. producers also plan to restart shut-in production, and inventories remain near historical highs. Stay with us, and Captain Global still to come on the program. Tanzanian miner earns millions after second rare find. Don't go away.
This is Captain News.
An unofficial result in Israel's second election in 5 months.
Abraham has made it 2-0.
Federer won all 5 of his US opponents.
Emotions are high and people are trooping in.
And on the entertainment scene,
History must not continue to repeat itself.
Put in place some infrastructure because that is the essence of governance.
For the inconclusiveness, it's a push.
Greg Odua Abrahams reporting for Captain Television.
Glad to have you back on Captain Global. A Tanzanian small-scale miner who became an overnight millionaire in June for selling 2 rough Tanzanite stones valued at $3.4 million has sold another gem for $2 million. The third discovery by Sunny New Liza weighed 6.3 kilograms. Tanzanite is only found in northern Tanzania and is used to make ornaments. It is one of the rarest gemstones on Earth, and one local geologist estimates its supply may be entirely depleted within the next 20 years. The precious stone's appeal lies in its variety of hues, including green, red, purple, and blue. Its value is determined by rarity. The finer the color or clarity, the higher the price. Efforts to protect the giant panda have failed to safeguard large mammals sharing its habitats, according to research published Monday showing dramatic declines of leopards and other predators. Since conservation efforts began, China has cracked down on poachers, outlawed the trade in panda hides, and mapped out dozens of protected habitats. The strategy is considered one of the most ambitious and high-profile programs to save a species from extinction, and it worked. The panda was removed from the International Union for Conservation of Nature Endangered Species list in 2016, although it remains vulnerable. But a new study published on Monday in the journal Nature Ecology and Evolution has cast doubt over the idea that efforts to protect the panda automatically help all other animals in its territory. And that's it from here. Many thanks for watching.